Oh wow. Oh, the mist. Oh, my goodness me. Now that is, yep, that is the forecast only. Not the reality, sadly. Now, having said that, potentially, as the temperature creeps up just a notch and the sun comes up, we might get some. Certainly wasn't as cold as they predicted last night, at least not in this area. So sadly, not a lot in the way of atmospheric conditions at the moment, but we can keep our fingers crossed, because sometimes as that temperature starts to rise, things start to happen. So it's the morning after the week before, and as I said in last week's video, I'm back in the little second forest that I recce'd. And even though it doesn't look like we're going to get mist again, we may do. Clear skies, so maybe as that early morning sun comes up, we might get a little bit of nice light shining through. So still worthwhile being here, but at the moment, and not even a huge amount of. Now maybe if I take myself to the edges, I may see a little bit of frost on those trees, because that's the other thing that potentially may work, especially with a little bit of sunlight glistening off them, do a little bit of abstraction. But I expected to be standing amongst the misty trees by now, but hey, let's take a wander down. So as you can see, a distinct lack of mist and fog. It's still relatively nice conditions. The sun has now risen. And we're starting to get some lovely light on the pines in the distance. And what kind of drew my eye was the coldness of the trees that are still in shadow. Kind of backdrop of those warmer pines. So I've actually got my 18-135 on, fully extended at 135. I've actually got the Fuji 100-400 in the bag, which, as we get a little bit more ambient light, may be nice to sort of pick out some finer details, but it's okay. Just the little sort of graduation of colour, sort of contrasted against the coldness of the trees in the foreground. Where's the mist, eh? So one of the things that I like to do when I'm shooting a particular scene is, I was shooting the scene before, and rather than simply just pack up and move on, I like to take my eye away from the camera, because I feel personally, for me anyway, that subconsciously, if I've been standing in an area for a period of time, my eye becomes attuned to other potential compositions, and that certainly happened here. Still using one of those trees that I was shooting before. I now saw two kind of trees with a splash of colour in the middle, and it kind of almost reminded me a little bit of a custody battle, maybe, or maybe I just haven't had enough coffee. There's a little splash of autumn colour with the rising sun coming in at the top of the frame. Not too sure whether that works, so I'll probably take a second shot without it rather than, crop in after post. But yeah, for me anyway, if I have been shooting a particular scene for a period of time, and then quite often what I will do is I'll take my eye away from the camera and just let my eye kind of adjust again and see whether there's another potential composition, which this may well be. So back to one of the little scenes that I recce'd last week, stroke yesterday, and I kind of am in a horizontal composition. What's kind of drawn my eye to this is the feeling of transition. On the top left hand side of the frame, we obviously have that early morning sunlight illuminating the background pines, but literally all the way in here, sweeping around, is still in shadow, bits of frost on the ferns. So there's the transition of light, but also a little bit of transition of seasonal maybe, because there is still a little bit of autumnal colour, just a touch. There's still some greens in there, see, evergreens. And then of course there's trees that have completely shed their leaves, so both the transition of time and also the transition of light. Maybe. Of course the game now is to look at the position and the relationship between those birches. You know, which should overlap, which shouldn't. What's the relationship between the ones that are close to each other and perhaps on opposite sides of the frame. So that's what I'm playing with here. But oh, rather nice. And yeah, we didn't get the mist, but that's okay. Oh, well, it's a couple of hours after that previous little scene, and actually we made our way along to the third forest area, and as we were driving up, the conditions actually looked much better. It got much colder, a little bit higher, so at -3, and there was a little bit of mist, albeit over a loch, so may not have worked in the woodland, but actually down in this little woodland, much frostier. Worked better, just that sort of, I think I said in last week's vlog, just that, you know, combination of late autumn, early winter. There was one sort of nice scene looking sort of almost directly into the sun, sort of backlit, sort of grasses and things called frozen. However, I almost fell into the water whenever a snipe sort of flew out, flushed it up, but hey. Well, my fingers and toes are now suitably numbed, so I think I'm going to go back to the van, which is just up here, stick on a coffee, and then decide if there's going to be anything good to shoot later on this evening. Once again, thanks for watching, and we'll catch up again soon. Bye bye.